All right. Well, welcome everybody. And my name is Mike Hudgens. I'm the senior pastor here at Vineyard Community Church. And so we just wanted to welcome you. We have a bunch of people who will be on live stream as well. And I just want to take a couple of minutes to thank you for coming and thank you for participating in this great adventure we're now on. I know a lot of your lives have been rearranged and changed in various ways. Spiritual lives, school lives, work lives. So we're all in this massive transition. But I'm convinced now that I'm looking at it, it's just going to be a great transition. It's for us as believers, as Christians, it's all the difference in the world, right? All things work together for our good, no matter how cataclysmic or how cosmic they are. So we're all in that place, and including our kids, which is really important. And so I have 4 kids, and they're all moved, along through adulthood and stuff. But I remember when we were trying to figure out our education options. It was a huge, huge issue. I mean, it was like, I've been in the ministry for a long, long time, but even the decisions we were making around here compared to our family decisions were just so like cataclysmic, and probably weren't as cataclysmic as it seemed at the time, but nevertheless, trying to figure out where your kids are supposed to go and what they're supposed to do is a really big deal. So I have great compassion for all of you families, and so we've done the whole thing. We've done the whole gamut with all the kids. Homeschooling, in-between schooling, this thing, that thing, and everything, public school, we did it all. So I don't know if that qualifies me for anything, especially these days, but nevertheless, I do have lots of empathy. And we've actually had a school here before, and wasn't really planning on doing another one, but all of a sudden the events that began to happen and cascade all around us really made us think a lot, not only about our church program, but also about the future. Not just about our church, but the future of kids in our region, our area. And of course, central to all of that is the education part, right? Which is a big deal. I mean, they're making friends there. They're just, the input they get in now, as you all know, as well as I do, the input and the things that are coming through our school systems, for me, was just, I felt like we had no choice and to step into this. And thank God that Amy came along at the right moment. She also had this burden, and I can't think of anyone as I've been working with her over the last several months, and maybe even now it's years, but I have never seen anybody like her with the ability to actually put things into motion that need to be put in motion, whether it's curriculum or whether it's just values or the kinds of teachers we need or anything. She is amazingly gifted. So when she came along and wanted to do this, and I saw the trouble, it was just sort of like a match literally made in heaven by God's grace for us here to do this. So in the process of all of this, we've been really trying to adapt in a major way to everything, as you are, and all churches are. So we've done a good job, I think. We've sort of been pretty free and open about having our services. We haven't gotten too far down into the, shutdown thing. I don't even know that we've not met for more than a couple of weeks. So that was sort of at the beginning. And we met outside, inside, around town. I mean, it's been everywhere. But in the process of this, trying to figure out the school has been an interesting thing. And so we made a deep commitment to do this this last year. And so we stepped into that commitment. Every commitment takes a lot of faith. You can't just say, hey, I want to do this. It's taken a tremendous amount of faith. And one of the biggest things that you could be praying with us about is we realized we had to alter everything that we're doing here in terms of our facilities. So we altered the sanctuary first, but that was fairly easy compared to what comes next because we've had to interface with the city. And so everything over here on the other side where we have a lot of our classrooms is readjusting and changing. The building over here is changing, and especially the area out here where the playground area and all that's going to be completely redone by God's grace by next fall. So that means that we are going to be equipped by God's grace. I just keep saying by God's grace, because this is actually a really faith walk for us as well as you, I know. Because we're all doing this together, right? We're all stepping from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade by God's grace. And we'll have how many students? 130 or 25 or... Oh my gosh, it grew again. Okay, freaking me out again. I'm going to stop asking you that. It freaks me out every time I hear of it. So we have some logistical things that I really appreciate your patience on, but we are well aware of our entrance patterns, our exit patterns, playground issues, classroom issues. We're very, very, very aware of it and moving just as quickly as possible to take care of all those issues so that our classrooms are in perfect place, our bathrooms and all the other things are in a good place. So we're working hard. I know you've been working hard and taking steps of faith, and by God's grace, we'll be fully ready to go by fall, and we've already had school quite successfully. I'm very excited. I love to see your children around here. I love it. We've already had a school before, so we're very kid-friendly. It's just we took a little break for a while, probably conspicuously after my kids graduated. In which is all our leaders in our church had kids about the same age, so they just sort of moved on. But I discovered some very interesting things doing that, and I learned a lot through that time about education and patterns kids follow, especially as they progress through the grades. And you might want to keep your eyes fully awake for high school, because that's going to be your next major challenge. It's a big one, and it's an important one, especially these days as we see the values and the things that are being circulated around our culture and stuff. So anyway, so I just wanted to welcome you, and I think part I wanted to ask for is just prayers of faith and also mercy, so that we're just trying to finish things as quickly as we can, and we're going fast on our end, but the city has to then cooperate, and everything's slow on the city end because of COVID-19. So getting permissions to do this and that and everything, and so we're really concerned. I think everything else is falling spectacularly in place. I don't know if we have a couple of teachers to hire, and I think we have 2 left, so we're doing great there. The facilities is what concerns us the most, so we're working really hard on that, like I said. The curriculum, everything that we're doing, the philosophy, outstanding teachers so far. I have just been so blessed. I've been around a little while, and I just meet these teachers, and I am so excited, because that's it, If the principal's right and the teachers are right, well, the facilities, if they get right, that would be perfect. But if you get the first 2 right, it's going to go well with you, and it's going to go well with our school. And also, your kids are great. We have some of the greatest kids. They're just fun to be around, and they're good, awesome. So anyway, anybody afraid of this whole thing? I mean, just a little bit apprehensive like me? Okay, only one. You guys are lying. All right, so I just want to say, I'm going to close in prayer for all of us that are apprehensive, right? And that we're just trying to step in and say, she's not as apprehensive as I am. I'm just sort of going, no, I just keep saying to myself, I didn't plan on doing this. I didn't plan on doing this. I didn't plan on doing this. And then God said, yes, you did. Yes, you did. I had the plans. But why didn't you spring them on me earlier, But the crisis precipitated everything. And so it's worked out, I got to admit, spectacularly. And I don't see any reason why I won't in the fall. So, all right. So anybody just a little bit afraid for this time, Lord, I just pray in Jesus' name that you just calm us, that you give us wisdom one day at a time as we need it. I pray that we would plan perfectly for our children. And I pray, Lord, that you would take care of those things that we cannot take care of. The environment around here with regard to our facilities and the permission from the city, you're going to have to give us grace there, and we thank you. We're already making great progress. We just pray for the maybe unknown things for maybe some parents here that are a little uneasy and are just kind of experimenting, stepping their toe into the water a little bit. I pray for them. And I just pray, God, you just give all very great wisdom for this coming year for our kids. We want the very best for our children. And we think you want to give us the best. So I know you're going to do that, Lord. But for anyone still apprehensive, I just pray you'd help us with the fear part and just give us courage and just map out the way for our kids this coming school year of what they're supposed to do and what our families are supposed to do. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. She's awesome, isn't she? I'll tell you. I wouldn't have had courage to step into this without her help, and also the people that have come around us. It's been so great. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. We know that the person who's awesome is actually Mike, because he's allowed us to be here. How many pastors would have opened their doors over the summertime last year in the midst of COVID and said, yeah, let's start a new school? Right? Welcome everybody also who's live streaming. All of you know this is required. We want to make sure that everybody gets this information. So anyone who is not listening on it live stream, they'll need to make sure that they get the recording link from Sue. I love hearing Mike's story about how this place started, because some of you have been here from the very beginning. Some of you came in January or came after that point. But Mike's story and my story on how this started are so different. Mike said, I just have to laugh. This school started, it was from the Lord, totally heaven, because that's the point that we agree on, but we're going to tell this story for years, Mike. We had talked about starting a homeschool program here before COVID. It was nothing of King's Academy at all. It was this little grassrootsy thing of let's do some. I outgrew my garage, and we've got these kids coming. Can we borrow some of the church's space to do it? And Mike had graciously said yes, because they had the Vine here before. And then COVID happened, and so we had been just casually figuring out what that was going to look like. And then I said, well, that's the end of that. There's not even children's ministry, so much for relocating to the church and having our little garage academy grow. And then I went on, many of you know this story, but I went on vacation with the rest of the state of California camping in Arizona in June, because there was nowhere else that we could go. You guys are nodding your heads because you were there too. And Mike called and said, hey, those homeschool classes, this is the first week of June, those homeschool classes you were thinking of starting at the church, are you still interested? And I had kind of written it off in my mind because it was June and school starts, the end of August, beginning of September. So I thought, well, I guess yes, yes. And then we said, I'll never forget it, Mike. He said, well, what do you think about starting a school? And I was like, oh, it's like June. That's in, 2.5 months. And I said, well, I know that God's called me to do homeschooling. So if I were to start anything, it would be a homeschool program. But let me finish out this camping trip. I'll pray about it. You pray about it. We'll get back together when I get home. I didn't have to pray about it very long at all to know that if there was ever a time to start a homeschooling program, that was it. That was as golden of as an opportunity to help families homeschool as we will have ever had. And we're still in it. We're still riding that wave. So in my mind, I think, it was Mike's idea. He called me in camping, and in Mike's mind, it was Amy's idea. So I think it's both of our ideas. But it's amazing because, so that started with an email. It started with, it's June. We should probably just tell people we're going to start something. And so I sent out an email to some friends, literally, and said we're going to start a program, and it's going to mimic what I had at my house. And then I figured I probably need to have a document that people sign and put their kid's name and birthday on it and says, yes, you're sending your kid here. And so I whipped one up on Word and sent that as an attachment. And that's how it started. And some of you actually, I remember calling me on the phone. Our first day of school, we had probably 50 kids. I think it was 4 classes, 50 kids. The church said you can start with 3 classes with the option of opening a 4th depending on enrollment. Well, that one little email turned into a whole lot of faces and phone calls that filled those 3 classes with a wait list for the 4th. We opened the 4th class. We had a wait list for 2 more classes. That first day of school, we could have opened 6 classes. We could have opened K through 5 or 6 and been full. There were that many people that were interested in coming to our program. And they had never seen it before. I said to myself, gosh, there should probably be some kind of parent meeting. Everything was going so fast. So fast. We had like 50 kids and no teachers. And in August, I said to myself, oh my gosh, we don't have teachers. We've spent all of our time getting that little form and all the, this was our beginnings. This was our early beginnings. And so I sent a text to Mike and John and I said, please pray for teachers. We need teachers, and like now teachers. And we prayed for teachers, and we got like an abundance of teachers. We had like 8 teachers in 2 weeks. We couldn't even hire them all. Pray for teachers now. Again, we're in another season where we need that prayer. A first grade teacher and a 6th grade teacher. But anyway, we had a parent meeting, so as I'm standing up here, this is our second parent meeting. We're not going to have one over the summer. This will be it. And it's hard not to actually remember how things started and how much this has taken off. And I can say there is no way, there's no human way we could have ever put together King's Academy. It is not possible. There's so many things that needed to happen that I remember thinking I would come up to an obstacle and think, this isn't actually something, I'm a kind of a type A driver person, if you can't tell. And I would get to it and I'd be like, I can't move that. I actually can't move that mountain. There's pieces in there that I can't control. So either the Lord has to move this or it'll fail. And it's up to him. And over and over again, he would provide. So I know deep in my spirit that this program is what the Lord wanted for this place. He wanted it for Vineyard. He wanted to bring all of you into the blessing and the overflow of this ministry and what Mike has stewarded. And this church, their intention, though we would love to have people come here on Sundays, their intention is truly just to serve you. It is to be an outreach to God's kids, his kids out in the community of South Orange County, and to bless you. That's truly that simple. I remember Mike saying, we don't even care if these families come to us. We just want to bless these kids and families. That says a lot to me, a lot. And so most of our families here actually don't attend Vineyard. We are ministering to God's kids in South Orange County. I'd say 20% of our families attend this church. The other 80 fellowship elsewhere. Moving forward, one of the pieces that we're hoping to strengthen is the partnership that our program has with the church. So that's something we're going to make a strong effort to do. I think everyone's just been trying to play catch-up this year. Is it possible to play catch-up for a whole year? Yes, it actually is. I feel like it's no sooner than we get one task done, there's like a mountain of other things to be doing. So our intention for next year is to be strengthening that. And I have a list of really fun things that are going to be a part of next year too, which is part of why you're here, so that I can share some of that. I'm not going to go through everything in that handbook, but I do ask that you actually read it. And I do ask, please be sure to read that handbook. Sue sent you the handbook, and she also sent you your curriculum list for your child's class, so you have all the information you need. But a couple of things. So Sue, when we first started this program, Sue was hired to do, her role is, I laugh now at what she was. She was hired to be a teacher's assistant. She does, you all know, she runs this ship. So she was hired to be a teacher's assistant, and she was hired to help me with the admin. She quickly became like heavily admin because of the overflow of how much admin there was. We started with 50-something kids. We now have 100 kids. Next year we'll have 138. We have 2 8th grade spots that are currently open. So we have 136 children enrolled, but if those other 2 spots will fill, I'm sure that they will. We'll be at our maximum capacity of 138. And so she needs to be relieved to do full-time admin. She needed to be relieved to do full-time admin a long time ago, so I have officially relieved her. She's actually now just doing full-time admin. We've hired Angie Castro. She's a mom of 2 kids that are here to be out on the playground full-time. So Sue is no longer on the playground. Angie Castro has a paid position as a playground monitor out there. We still welcome anybody who wants to sign up to be a supervisor, an extra set of hands out there. But that change happened about a month ago, I think. My sense of time isn't always the best, but about a month ago. So Sue is full-time admin. The other change of our current staff, Daniela Nasser, our 5th grade teacher, she is transitioning out of her role as a 5th grade teacher, and she's moving into, she's got 2 roles. She's going to be our Spanish teacher next year. As many of you know, she's from Mexico, so Spanish is her native language. She's going to be moving into that, and then she's also filling a new role that we created, which is the wellness position. So she's going to be overseeing the chapels, and she's going to be overseeing anytime there's any difficulties between children. We've been really fortunate this year that we've had minimal problems in that regard. But she's going to be the person that if there's any issues out on the playground, Daniela is going to get brought into that to work it out with the kids. And she's going to be fostering the faith piece into our program. With that, we have 2 missions trips that are going to be planned for next year. One of them is to Mexico. She used to be on staff with an organization called The Mission, and so we're going to be going to Mexico with her to that organization. It's just over the border. That's in March. These things are on the calendar in your handbook. And the other thing is Romania, missions trip to Romania, pending that we can all get on a flight and go. Currently, Romania is closed, so assuming that Romania opens and that we're able to actually make that trip, the organization that she worked with, the mission, also has a base in Romania where she also served as a missionary. So she's going to be returning back there and bringing a group, those of us who want to go. So Sue is now full-time admin, Angie is on the playground, and Daniela is transitioning into a different role. Those are our staff changes. And we've hired our kindergarten teacher is actually in the classroom right now, and she's our new kindergarten teacher. Her name is Jolie Kowalski. I think she goes by Miss K. I'm not sure. So you'll have those of you who have incoming kinders, if you see someone being a helping hand in there, it's probably her. She's getting used to the class. Next year, first grade, we don't know yet. We're so excited to bless Elise as she moves out. She has been doing Pilates on the side and teaching as her primary profession. She's flopping that. So she's going to be teaching on the side just a little bit, and she's going to be doing Pilates essentially first time. So we are going to be so sorry. We're so sad to lose her, but we bless her with being able to try something different at this season of her life. Our second grade teacher will remain Miss Lynn. Our third grade teacher will remain Miss Stabe. Our fourth grade teacher will remain Miss Filer. Our fifth grade teacher is new teacher, Joy Kerr. She's taught fourth and fifth grade before, and we're excited to have her. And then our sixth grade teacher, we're looking for. Our seventh and eighth grade teachers, we're going to do a completely different schedule for junior high. They're going to share two teachers. There'll be a math and writing teacher who is Marianne Carlson. She is joining us. She's taught at SVCS for several years, and then has stayed on with them as they've transferred I forget who, does anyone remember the school that bought them out? So she's leaving there and coming to work with us. So she'll be math and writing. And then Carolina Umana, who's our current kindergarten teacher, will be transitioning up into teaching history and science. As you know, Carolina, well, maybe you know. So Carolina, I know Carolina for years. She actually started a program similar to King's Academy many years ago that ran for several years. It probably ran for 10 plus years. And she has taught everything, every subject, pretty much every grade. And she homeschooled her own daughter up through junior high, and that daughter graduated with high honors and got a full ride scholarship to an Ivy League school and just finished there and is in medicine. So she is more than qualified to move from kinder to junior high. So she'll be doing that, and that's our staff for next year. A couple other things. So I'm going to actually just move over to the handbook real quick. You'll notice we're going to have an open house just like we did last year. It's the Thursday before school starts, and it's short. It's 30 minutes. You come. It's just a chance for your children to meet their teacher, see their classroom before their first day of school. So we'll continue to do that. And then school apparel. Many of you have probably seen those school t-shirts and the school hats and the school beanies. I don't know if we have any other school items that I'm forgetting, but those will be made available to purchase one time during the year. We have to have a minimum order for it, so you can't just order that whenever you want to. There has to be a substantial minimum order. So we're just going to have it one time in the fall. So if you want school apparel, make sure Sue is going to be taking orders for school apparel on the open house. Make sure that you get your apparel, because once that opportunity closes, it's closed for the year. It'll probably be the same shirts, but it'll be a different color. I think we're probably going to do black. I don't know. Spirit Days, we will be having Spirit Days. That's going to fall under Daniela's position. Picture Day, Market Day. Market Day, how many of you are familiar with what a Market Day is? It's when students can create any kind of handiwork and sell it. So we're going to slot that for before Christmas, and then students can sell things and make a little bit of extra money before the holidays. And you can buy things for other people for the holidays. The talent show, we're going to piggyback on Vineyard's talent show that they do and have some of our kids get involved in that. King's Academy core values, scrolling down. We have core values. We've actually had these for a few months, but we just haven't all of our teachers are well aware of this, but we hadn't put it in the revised handbook until now. So please take a few moments to actually read those. That's very important to us. I'm not going to read them because I want to be a good steward of your time, but I want you to be aware that those are there. And this has been a journey for us in figuring out how much time students are spending on their homework. I hate to call it homework. I shouldn't even be calling it homework. On their homeschool lessons on Mondays and Fridays. Just so that you know, everybody who's come through the most recent, well, since February, I would say I started to become a lot more clear with how much time you should be spending at home on the homeschool lessons. For those who went through tours, you've already heard me say this, but our families that started this program, this is something that's kind of been a moving target. We've been trying to figure out along the way. So we've gotten to a place where we know what we want now. We know what we're aiming for. So I wanted to communicate that to everybody as a whole. Most of our families, I would say 85% of our families, maybe 90% of our families, are using those homeschool guides and all of our materials on the Mondays and Fridays. They're actually doing those lessons with our materials. When we had originally made them optional, the intention of that was because we have some families that have joined us that are veteran homeschool families. They've homeschooled for a long time. They know what they're doing. And if they have their own preferred curriculum, we have one family that's, home educated 5 of their kids. We have their youngest kid. And their others are like out, in college and married. And so that family would be an example of some that they, if she has her own way that she would like to teach writing, then by all means, teach your own writing. You don't need to follow our guide. That is the mindset behind trying to give people the freedom to do what they want to if they have a preferred way of doing it. For most of our families, they're new to homeschooling, and so that homeschool guide is meant to help you not be kind of lost in the dark with what you should be doing on your homeschool days. It's meant to make life easier for you, and it's also meant to make life easier for the teacher who needs to know that all the kids are on the same place when they come back to school on Tuesday. So we are asking very much, please be sure to complete what's in that packet. All of our teachers are not giving busy work. They're trying to give core academic material that is useful. And if your child doesn't do it, our teachers have all been told to pick up on Tuesday as though all those kids know it. And so if those kids don't know that material, that teacher is going to move on. They're not going to slow down to try and catch up a child who wasn't home educated on those 2 days. So please be sure to actually home educate on those 2 days to make sure that the class and your child can move smoothly. I will say, you can get by. For example, two of my kids were sick over the weekend, so I can say we didn't do the homeschool guide on one of those days because they were spent on the couch watching movies the whole time. But if you make a pattern of that, over time, there's going to be major holes in your kids' education. A few weeks here and there, no big deal. Vacations, sick days, no big deal. But routinely, it's not a good idea. It's like 20, 30% of your kids' education that's actually missing. So please make sure to do it. The amount of time, I'm not going to touch on that too much. Many of you who have been in those tours have heard me say that amount of time is very ambiguous. It depends on your child. I've got the perfectionistic one that spends way more time than I think anyone in his class doing his homework because he just wants to make sure it's right. I'm not going to tell you how long he takes because no one else should be taking that long. He shouldn't be taking that long. It's like a work we're trying to figure that out. God bless him. And then I've got the one who's hoping that I'm not paying attention so that she can get through it as fast as possible, and hopefully I won't grade it, or I've got someone else's work she's eyeing me, seeing what she's going to get by with on that day. And so that kid, you actually you need to stay on top of them. Some days I'm better on it than others. Some weeks I'm better on it than others. But you'll get to know your kids is the point. So I get hesitant to say this is how much time you're going to spend on your homeschool days when it depends on who your kids are, and it depends on what grade level they're in too. The little ones shouldn't be ever spending more than an hour or two doing their homework. It's not meant to be a half day. The kinder and first graders, it's meant to be a little bit in the morning. They're going to do their reading, their writing, and their math, and then they're going to call it a day. So second, third, fourth, and fifth grade, that's going to be around 2 or 3 hours. Depending on your student and depending on the day. Fridays are going to be a little bit lighter than Mondays. And those junior hires, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, are going to be sent home with work. So expect them to have to work. They're going to spend a solid 3 hours or more doing their homework. So just to set a very general expectation for that. Okay. I was excited about if you've, on page 4 of your handbook, for those who are live streaming, you guys or on your phones, you can pull that up. The curriculum was not something that I took lightly. I actually feel like I've prayed over this aspect of our program more than any other. Hours and hours of time researching options and taking it to the Lord and asking what He wanted your children to know. I feel a very heavy responsibility for what all of your children will be learning. And I just want to communicate that to you, that this was not taken lightly. It was really a labor of prayer in trying to determine not even what I would like to see in this program, but what is the Lord's heart for what He wants your children to be learning. So what I felt like he wants is what's on that curriculum chart, which brings me great joy to show you, because this has been months and months of developing what this is going to look like, so that it's a cohesive thing from kindergarten through 8th grade. We have a map of everything that your child is going to be learning in every different subject, and you see the trajectory for where they're going. On a side note, we are already working on high school. We have started working heavily on high school, and we will continue to work all of next year on high school, so that when we launch that first high school class, we know where we're going and we know how we're going to get there. We know what all of our options are. We know how to prepare them for college. We know which colleges we're going to go after, which ones we're not, and why. We will have everything figured out as well as we can. We got a year to do it, and we're already doing that now. I just had a meeting figuring that out. We've got the map. We know which questions we need answered and who we're going to go after them. So you should all be getting, a year from now, a written handbook that says, this is what our high school program entails, this is what you can expect from us, these are the resources that we have to offer you, and this is the direction that we're going. So that's pretty awesome. But back to K through 8. K through 8, going at this from this map, a couple of things. Essentially, kinder, first and second and third are not changing. Whatever your kids have been doing in those grade levels are staying the same. It's been working great, and there's no need to change it. The only small modifications we're doing, all of those penmanship books that those of you bought through Rod and Staff, our staff have found that our kids were at such varied levels. Some children never knew, were not taught cursive. Others have been taught cursive. Those who hadn't been taught it didn't know how to do it. If we had thrown out those books to them, they wouldn't have known how to do it. So we have not used those books. If you want that book back, you can collect it. If you don't want that book, leave it here. And once all of our kids actually are on the same place in their penmanship, we can reintroduce those books a year or two down the line and have them work on them then. But that's why those books haven't been used. So we're going to start from scratch, and you'll see on that curriculum chart that we're doing Zaner Blozer's handwriting, and we've slotted that for 4 years, and we're going to just start over. We're going to start teaching cursive in 2nd grade, and we've got like a plan of where we're going to be going with that. A quick word on 3rd grade. Those of you who have 3rd graders, because I expect you'll be emailing me, so I'm going to beat you to the punch. We know that the curriculum that we asked you to buy says for 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. But your kids are going to do great. We've looked through it, and it's not too hard. So we've slotted that for 3rd grade. 4th grade is California history. It's going to be awesome. Ms. Filer has been working hard on that. And that year, I'm frustrated. My own daughter missed it by I've got a 4th grader that's graduating. I would have loved her to do that. You'll see the writing that they're going to be working on as well. 5th and 6th grade, these 2 grade levels, expect good things, because this was the hardest 2 years for us to plan by a lot. So the Lord had good things in mind. So we're doing 5th and 6th grade, we're doing world history from the beginning of creation till the current times. We're splitting it in half. So Knotgrass has their curriculum. They have 3 different 1-year-long curriculums for middle school starting. They can be done in any order, starting in 5th grade through 8th grade. So one of those curriculums is a world history class. It's a faith-based world history, and it's meant to be done in a year, but we're splitting it over 2 years. Part of that's because it has so many lessons in it. It's too many lessons for us to actually complete in 1 year. And also, we want to take our time and be able to weave in art through the centuries, the history of art, and also the history of science, and some history of music in there too. So we've split it up into 2 years. All of our current 5th graders are going to pick up, so they've been doing history right now up until about right after the birth of Christ. Next year, they're going to pick up right where they left off, and they're going to finish out in 6th grade, the second part of world history up until modern times. Writing for 5th and 6th grade, this is also worth noting. Be forewarned when you see that book. But your children are going to learn how to write, and they're going to learn how to write well. It's a thick book. It's like this thick. We're going to split it up into 2 years also. If you look through that book, I have a current 4th grader. I looked at that thing. I said, this is way too much for a 5th grader to bite off. The earliest they can start it is 5th grade. It's a junior high book, but you can start it as early as 5th grade. So our 5th graders are going to split that book up and do it over 2 years. So the first half is in 5th grade, the second half is going to be in 6th grade. Then they can digest it and work through it nice and slowly and make sure they're picking up every skill. 6th grade, next year, because they haven't done the first half of it this year, they're going to start at the same place as the 5th graders, and they're going to work through as much of it as they can. And wherever they get to is wherever they get to. Several of you have asked me about IEW. You'll be very happy to know, those of you who like it, and I'm sorry for those of you who hate it, because it tends to be one of both ways. But we are going to do IEW, and it's slotted for junior high, 7th and 8th grade. So our math teacher, when we hired her, it turns out that she's actually taught IEW before and loves IEW. Isn't that perfect? We have people that would love to do IEW here, so this is the perfect fit. So she is going to be teaching IEW, and they're focusing on the IEW's unit is on Narnia, and so they're going to be referencing several of the books of Narnia by C.S. Lewis and be working through IEW with that. And it's that book, like many homeschool curriculums, they're not slotted like specific age, like grade levels. It's slotted as junior high. So you can do it in 7th grade, you can do it in 8th grade, you can do it in 6th grade. So for the Narnia book, that one we've slotted for 7th and 8th grade. It can be used for both. And then, last but not least, on the junior high curriculum, the Knotgrass curriculum that I had mentioned for history, they have 3 different units that can be done. We're doing the world history. We're breaking it up into 2 years. And then Knotgrass has a U.S. civics and government that I really felt led of the Lord to do this one. I felt like I actually was going to skip over it, and I felt like he prompted me and said, I want that taught. So it's U.S. civics and government from a faith perspective, and we can all see why the Lord would want that to be taught in light of the last year, why that's important to him. And so it's very important to him that gets taught. So we're doing that in 7th grade. 7th and 8th grade will be, both will be focused on the United States. The first year will be U.S. civics and government. The second will be U.S. history. And we're going to do a field trip to Washington, D.C. for 7th and 8th graders. Those who want to go are going to be welcome to do that. And Miss Imana is going to lead that up. I see some jaws dropping. People are excited. That's good. Woohoo! Spanish, also, Daniela is going to be teaching Spanish to our kids. Our junior hires will get it 2 days a week for the last 45 minutes of the day. So expect that's what you can expect for that. And then we're doing Apologia Science. Apologia has a very strong reputation in homeschooling for a long time, faith-based science curriculum. And so we're doing their standard 7th grade science, which is general science, and we're doing their standard 8th grade science, which is physical science. And that'll include labs. You can expect your child to be doing a lab probably once a week at school. We know better than to send labs home for homework. So we won't ever be asked to do that. And then for math, this is an important one. One of the most common questions I get is what to do with students who are very good at math or accelerated math students. At this point, we've been trying to help. We've been creative with trying to work that out. Next year, if you have an accelerated junior hire, we are going to teach at grade level math. So 7th grade math, we're going to teach Saxon's math. 7th grade math. 8th grade, we're going to teach pre-algebra. If you would like your child to be in an accelerated math, you are more than welcome to do that. Say you have a 7th grader and you want them to be in an 8th grade math or even in a 9th grade math, we have the recommended text that we encourage you to consider. You're welcome to buy that text, and you can actually have your child be doing that work in class independently. You can be homeschooling them on your own using those texts that we have suggested. Our math teacher, Mrs. Carlson, is going to be well-versed in all of them, so she will be able to help students as needed. She will not be teaching the other maths in the class. She's going to be teaching the grade-specific math, but she is happy to help students if they need help in their math. We're going to offer several after-school classes, but one of those after-school options is going to be Mrs. Carlson will be available to do math tutoring for anybody. It's like a math study hall is really what it is, a math study hall where if you want your child to be going and getting help, say you've got a student that's doing algebra, but they're in 7th or 8th grade, and you're not the person to have be helping them, which was me over the weekend with my son. It was the first time. I feel like that's actually a big accomplishment for me. I did not know how to help my son with math until 6th grade. That's good, right? I mean, it could have been worse, but then I realized I have like a lot of years left that I'm not going to know how to teach it. So I checked in with my husband. I said, please tell me you know how to do pre-algebra. And he said, I think I got it covered. Thank God, because I don't want to have to relearn that. So if you're like me and your husband's not good at math either, then Marianne Carlson will be doing a math study hall after school that you have the option of. There'll be an additional fee for that, but you can stay after, and she'll be able to help with any of your accelerated math. So that's that. Community on the bottom of page 4. This is something that we've been actually kind of quietly moving in this direction with some of the things that we've been having going on here, but we're going to formalize it, and there's a variety of things that are going to be happening. Some that are already happening is the prayer on the playground on Tuesday mornings. We're always going to be keeping that short. The goal is it's 15 minutes of your morning. You can stay and pray when you do the drop-off. I write a prayer list every week, and things that have the updates, I'll just put the updates on the list so that you can know how to pray. And I can say myself, I feel like the prayer, this King's Academy is the Lord's. It's entirely the Lord's. It's more than Vineyards and anything. It's the Lord's. It's completely His. So the prayer piece of that is like cannot be underestimated. Yes. So please consider, even if you don't come to pray, ask Angie for that prayer list, and however the Lord leads you, whenever He leads you, consider praying for our needs. I felt an immediate shift once we started that prayer group. I felt like my load was lighter, and I felt like I could breathe more. And even some of our teachers, one of the teachers came up to me about a week or two after the prayer started, and she said, Amy, ever since that prayer started, I've noticed my class has more joy. Everything moves more peacefully. You can just feel it. Everything's like, you can feel it. And I said, I'm going to tell her that. Praise God. You know, that's what we want. So this 15 minutes of prayer is really, really important. So that's going to be on there. It's led by Angie Castro. We have a women's group that's we're going to have here. It's also led by King's Academy Leadership. It's Jen, actually, if you want to stay under wave. She's going to be leading that on Thursday mornings. It's from 9:30 to 11:30, and there'll be a book, some kind of book or a text that we'll go through together on that. Park days, these have already been happening, but we're going to formalize it. So once a month, Anna is our KA leadership for that, Anna Protopapis. So she is in charge of that. And so those are always going to be in the afternoon on a Friday after the work has been done, probably around 1 o'clock. And there'll be different parks every month, but it'll be a great way of getting to know each other and being able to spend time. Hospitality is another one. Jenny Balzer, you can wave. So Jenny is like a school's dream come true. Every time there's anything, she and Serena, there's a few of you guys out here, that just always offer to help. Hey, how can I help with this, that? So she's going to be in charge of anytime there's class parties, year-end events, graduation, anything like that. And if you want to get plugged in and helping, she's going to be the point person that you would go to for that. Teacher appreciation, you name it. Mission trips, I've already spoken on that a little bit. And then a camping trip. We actually have our first camping trip coming up this weekend. Anna is heading that up, and Michelle is heading that up. Both of you guys are here. Michelle, you can wave your hand. So if you have any questions about that, you can ask them. Even if you don't have a campsite, because they're sold out at this point, you're welcome to come for the day or Saturday night when we're doing s'mores and worship. You're welcome to come. Those of you who know me, you've heard me say this before, I don't like camping. I actually would go so far to say I dislike camping, but I own a trailer, and I feel like it was the reason why I camp is because there's nothing like sitting in the wilderness in the dirt with nothing to do but being with your kids, and sometimes it goes better than others. But it's the quality time. It's the forced time and half the time we're in a place where there's no cell service. So that whole issue of dealing with screens, myself included, is just gone. And so there's a real preciousness to what happens when you're just sitting camping. I feel like I used to go camping with my daughter's troop, American Heritage Girls, and my son was in Trail Life. And I swear, the relationships that would be built for my kids and for me in that one weekend would have taken almost a year to build if I was just seeing someone here or there for 15 minutes or 10 minutes there. So I encourage you to come for the community piece of it. You can come to my trailer if you need to use a real toilet or wash your hands or something, and you'll be welcome there. Okay, Parent Square. So we've, because of how we started, humble beginnings with sending out emails and whipping up our own Word documents for parents to sign something. Because of that, we recognize the need to consolidate all of our communications. And so right now, we use Sign Up Genius for sign-ups. We use SurveyMonkey for surveys. We use emails, which several people don't even get our emails, and we can't figure out why that is. So we're going to get rid of all of that, and we're moving everything onto Parent Square. So you absolutely need to make sure that you download the free Parent Square app. More information will be forthcoming on that. Sue and I need to figure out Parent Square and on the back end of it, which we're trying to do. But there's just a lot to it. So once we've figured out the back end of it, we'll be sending out an email to everybody. But for those of you who, in case there were several people who didn't get our email even about this meeting. So, talk to each other and get that going when we send out that email. And I think it's going to make everybody's life a lot easier. It can hold permission slips. It can hold everything. I think at Parent Square, it's going to make everything a lot easier for us. So cell phone policy, please be aware of that. We follow our policy. We actually follow our handbook. So this says don't send your child with a phone to school. If it comes out and it's turned on, we actually do confiscate it. So we have confiscated phones, and we've sent reminders home to parents, please don't send your child with a cell phone. And that's all that needs to be said. So chapel, right now it's been parent-led, and it's been once a month. Ava and Jen and Serena have been leading it, and maybe one or two others. Jenny, have you led it? No, yeah, there's a couple. So they've done an amazing job. We've been so blessed by them. Next year, chapel is going to fall under Daniela's position, and so she will be reaching out for parent help if and when she needs it, but she's been tasked with coming up with the vision for where chapel will be going next year. Dress code. This is also something that we actually do follow. We're asking, please, not to send your children. I know it's really trendy to do the midriff tops and the short shorts. And I made a joke. Don't I look like I'm dressed like I'm 40 in my 40s today with my heavy sweater and everything else? But so don't send your kids in the clothes that show too much. Okay, that's the point. Please don't send them that, and we will send them home. And so we've asked to make sure that everybody's not showing too much of their skin. So don't be embarrassed if your child gets sent home or sent to the warehouse to find something that they can put on there. But we do just want to make sure that you understand this is something that we enforce. Birthdays, a COVID-19 policy, it's there. We've been following it all year, so there's no changes there. If you're not aware of what it is, just reference the handbook on page 6. Birthday parties. So this became an issue when we love cooking in our classes. We have so much fun cooking, especially the little kids. They love cooking in their classes. And then we also have our holidays and holiday parties, and we noticed that there's just like a lot of junk food coming through the ranks. And so we want to honor every family has a different position on that. So the way that we found the easiest one that we can axe and remove is the junk food that comes in through birthday parties, especially if you've got like 3 birthdays in a month and then you cooked and then you also had a school party. It's just can be overwhelming. So the way to manage that is please follow our list of birthday foods that's in our handbook. I don't know what page it's on, but it's toward the end. Just please make sure to actually honor that. It puts the teacher also in a better position too when you're bringing in food that's already been approved and is on that list. So the main point of it is don't bring in like cake, cupcakes, cakes, and cookies. But there's lots of options of things that you can bring in and that your children will still be able to enjoy. Lost and Found. The Lost and Found is, that's going to be in the school office, Sue's office, but the main reason I mentioned that is because all those apparel, all the items, the school shirts and everything, please make sure you put your child's names on that because we've had some lost and we have no idea who, they all look the same, so there's no way of knowing who they belong to. The recess and lunch, page 7, we've changed that schedule around quite a bit. We have more kids coming. We had actually entertained a couple of different ideas on how to manage having more kids on the playground next year, and we had looked at hiring more playground monitors, but at this point, we actually just decided to divide them into more groups. So there'll be smaller groups. So we have the kinder, first, and second grade group that'll have one scheduled together, and then we have the third, fourth, and fifth grade group that'll have one scheduled together, and then we have junior high that'll have one scheduled together. The junior high group, they have, instead of 2 recesses and a lunch, they have 2 30-minute breaks. So they'll have break 1 and break 2. And they'll be with one teacher for the first part of the day. So let's just say they have Miss Umana for the first 2.5 hours of the day, then they'll have a 30-minute break. Then they'll actually go back to a different class with Mrs. Carlson for math and writing, and then they'll go have their second 30-minute break, and then they'll go into their class and have Miss Nasser teach Spanish for the last 45 minutes. So that's the way that will work. Standardized testing, as many of you know, we just completed standardized testing this last week, and also our first graders are going to have that standardized testing this week. Standardized testing is completely optional for homeschoolers. That's one of the things that many homeschoolers really love is that they aren't required by the state to take that standardized testing. If you're with a charter school and you've got a third grader and up, then you generally are required to do the standardized testing. We did the standardized testing this year because Chia asked us to. They were asking for anybody that was a PSA family or a PSP family, so non-charter families. They were asking if we would please consider testing our students so that they would have the research that's necessary to defend homeschooling if and when it comes under attack in the state of California, which because of the influx, one of the great things about COVID is the influx of people with homeschooling, but one of the disadvantages of that is it means you've got a lot of attention on you now, and you're a little bit vulnerable to having policies and things trying to regulate you. So the HSLDA and CHIA are very well aware of that, and they've asked for families to get their kids tested so that they can show homeschoolers are doing just fine. They're doing really well. There's no reason that they should be regulated or taken off the books if they're performing better than they're both public and private. And historically, homeschool families have always performed better than both public and private. So they wanted to be able to show that. So that's why we tested all of our kids, is because we wanted to support, well, we tested those of you who were willing. We wanted to support that. But moving forward, the following year, we're actually going to keep testing them, but for different reasons. We're going to keep testing them because we want to actually see how our kids are doing. As our program develops, we want to be able to keep our own fingers on the pulse of how our kids are doing. So we're going to pay for that, and we're going to do it here on campus. There's nothing that you'll need to do for it at all, but just expect it to be, your child will be tested for 2 days next spring. The kinder first and second will be paper and pencil tests. That'll all be done the same day, and then we're buying a set of 16 computers, and we'll give those computers to one class at a time to be tested online for grades 4 and up. So that's how that'll work. Okay, discipline and guidance. Just to be on the bottom of that page 7, you'll see that there's a definition for bullying. I know that term is used quite a bit. I just wanted to provide some clarification on for the purposes of King's Academy, what that term actually entails. Because I've noticed that there's a lot of people asking, there's a lot of confusion about when is that term appropriate to use and when is it not. So I didn't make this term up. I got this from stopbullying.gov. It's a government website. But the main thing to consider here is that bullying, there's always a power differential that's involved. So if you just see somebody teasing and calling names one day and it's not again, if you just see someone got pushed down and thrown on the playground by another kid, typically that's completely wrong behavior. It's absolutely wrong, and that's important that it stop. But bullying, the defining component of bullying is that power differential and that it's repeated over time. So there's a bigger kid that's beating on the littler kid. There's the most popular kid that's like constantly belittling the kid that doesn't have the friends. That power differential of intelligence or popularity or size or something of that nature. And there's an acronym that I felt was useful to just keep in the back of your mind to help you differentiate on what bullying is too. It's STOMP, and that acronym is also on this page. But STOMP, the ST is it happens several times. So if it's just a one-time incident and it was bad and wrong and completely inappropriate, bullying is usually repeated. It's several times. This has happened on multiple occasions. And it's also, the O is for one-sided. And many times there's, all of us know this as parents when you have more than one child. It was him today, but it's kind of her the next week, and they go back and forth. And that one, he totally started it. But last week it was actually her that was started. starting it. And when it's that go back and forth, that's not bullying. That's children that need to be brought in. But the bullying is it's one-sided. It's always one way. It's one person beating on the other one or being inappropriate to the other one. And then it's mean and it's purposeful. It's not accidental. It wasn't a whoops. It was very intentionally, purposefully wrong. So I wanted to just share that with you. It's an easy way of kind of fleshing out different situations that happen. And on page 8, there is the behavior protocol. Just so that you're aware of this, this is something we very much do follow. We've used this several times this year. And if you have any questions about the way that we handle things, you can reference that behavior protocol. The independent learning program is something that we've just started that's new. We had a handful of families that would have one sibling that would get into our program, but then the others were waitlisted. And I had a few of them ask us if there was any way that they could at least be added to the parent email list the teachers send out, saying we're going to buy the books for our child that's not enrolled, and we're just going to homeschool them on our own. If we could just receive the homeschool guides that you're giving every week, we'll kind of follow along on our own. And that's obviously far from ideal. That's not the way that you want to set it up if you have the option not to, but these families felt like it was the best option that they had. So we still have families that are like that, where they've got one or more of their kids in our program, but the others are on the wait list. And so we have formalized that, and it's called the Independent Learning Program, and you will get, you pay a small fee to be a part of that, but then you're going to be receiving all the materials that are from you. In fact, it might kind of transform into a slightly different email that you get that's specific just for the independent learners, because the goal of the independent learners is not to replicate the experience that they have here. Here, our teachers on the on-campus days are doing all kinds, as you know, of fun activities and different things. They're doing the art projects that the teacher comes up with. They're doing the cooking. They're doing the just a variety of different things. If you were to try and put all that down in a homeschool guide and send it home, you would burn out so fast and be miserable. So that's not the goal, is to replicate this. The goal is to get you your core academics and which lessons you need to be doing at which pace, in which order, and just the primary things that you need. And then we've got some after-school classes that are going to be after Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 3:30 to 5. If those families want to send their independent learner child to those after-school classes so that they can have some crossover with families that are in the core academic program, then they're welcome to do that as well. I'm not going to go over the King's Academy recess and lunch rules on page 11, but I would encourage you just to be aware that they do exist, and that's this is what we have anybody who signs up to volunteer on the playground follow. And then I also had shared on page 12, there are the birthday food recommendations as well. So we are almost done. The main other piece is the after-school classes. We have a few things in the pipeline. We have not formalized any of this yet, so please take this as tentative because it's not been formalized. But we're looking at providing some kind of fitness or PE. So for the little people, it would be like PE and recreational games. And then for the older kids, we're getting a van that's a 15-passenger van. We're looking at potentially driving them over to the park, Laguna Niguel Regional Park, and having them do a fitness or runners club. And then also there's some trails that are around here that we could take them to and run them on the trails. So that's one possibility. We are also looking at doing speech and debate for the older kids. The 6th, 7th, and 8th graders would have that, and we could explore. That has a lot of different places it could grow into, doing competitions and whatnot. We have another family. The grandmother has a very long, extensive background in confectionery design. She does professional cake making and design and candy making and cake pops and candy molds and all of that. So she's interested in teaching a class. That class gets maxed out at 10, so it's going to be small. But she's interested in doing that. It'll either be for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders or 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And then computer science, we're going to be getting those 16 computers. And so another possibility is doing a computer lab after school class where they would learn typing and they would learn coding and they would learn online safety and everything of that nature. Another one is a theater class. We are exploring the possibility of that right now, and that would culminate with a Christmas production or an Easter production that would be open to the church and the school, and we could use that as a fundraiser as well. And then there's also an art class that a gal that is really excited about potentially teaching art to our older kids, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. They each have their own sketchbook, and they would be filling that sketchbook with all different mediums and all different kinds of art. And then I've spoken a little bit about the math study hall. which would be an option as well. So I think that I've covered pretty much everything, and as I would sum it up, I don't know about you, but this year's been a little bit of a doozy, right? It's just been like, I've tried to not listen to all the things that are going on around me because it's easy for me to become discouraged and disheartened by the climate of negativity that we're living in this year. So as I was thinking about this, I feel like one of the things that I know that the Lord has called me to, there's two things that he's called me to. He's called me to my family, and he's called me to this school. He's called me to King's Academy, and he's called me to be a wife and a mom. And so I find that when I feel discouraged, I am putting my mind on Philippians 4:8. And I think it has been such a joy to me to be able to put my mind on things that are good and are pure and are holy and are the Lord's thoughts. And King's Academy is the Lord's thought. It was his thing that he came up with. And so it's so neat to see what only God can do be done. And for all that he has done this year and through Mike and through VCC, he has even greater things are yet to come for this program. And so my mind is on the things that are above and the things that are pure and holy and righteous and true. And so King's Academy is meant to be a beacon of light. It's meant to be a place that is focusing on what is truth, what does God's word say, what is God's desire for education look like, what does God's desire for a Christian family look like in South Orange County, and whatever that is what we're pursuing. And so I think I would close with, I don't have a verse. I haven't felt like the Lord's given me a verse for King's Academy until recently, which is Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And that's what we're going to think about here. We're going to think about all the good things that God is doing and the ways that he is lavishly coming into South Orange County and showing his goodness and his kindness to all of his kids that are living here that are looking for answers to alternatives to what's going on around us. So with that, I think you have all the information you need for now. And if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to ask them. That's it. Yes. Yes, thank you. So the HSLDA is in the handbook, but there's not much said about it. The HSLDA is the Homeschool Legal Defense HSLD Association. It's the nationwide homeschool organization. So there's two organizations that you should care about. One of them is the HSLDA. The other is CHIA. CHIA is the CHIA. What's the C stand for? Christian Home Educator Association of California, Christian Home Educator Association. So we're CHIA of California. So the HSLDA, we're asking, we encouraged all the families to join that this year. Next year, we're requiring it. Just for those of you who might be frustrated by that, I empathize with having one more fee to pay completely. However, it's not unusual for homeschool organizations to require that at all. In fact, Sue Shea, who used to be a part of several organizations, she said, oh my gosh, it was just assumed that, if you're in a homeschool group, if you're homeschooling, it's assumed that you're part of the HSLDA. So we're asking all of our families, we're making it a requirement. There's many questions that you will ask us that we can speak to, but we don't always have the authority to speak to them. HSLDA is the one who has the authority to speak to it. So, and that's actually our reference point too, because I want to make sure I don't ever give you wrong information. But an example of that is when it's time for you to file your PSA, for those of you who are affidavit families, they actually have a whole page on every single question in that affidavit, and it tells you how to answer every single question. So if you come to us saying help with that, we're going to say, go to the website because it's all right there for you. But there's so many other things that they do. For example, in developing our high school program, I called the HSLDA because they actually have high school specialists that just work on helping high school, homeschool students all around the nation of the United States make sure that they have everything they need to be able to get into high school. They have elementary school specialists. They have early elementary school specialists. You can call them at any time and say, hey, I need help with my transcript. Hey, I need feedback on what classes they should be taking this grade level. They're available for everything, just about everything. I've been amazed with the stuff that they have that I didn't know about until I started calling them and just say, oh, by the way, I have this other question. Can you speak to this? Actually, we can. So we are asking everybody to be a member of that. And in our handbook, there should be a code. They give, get a group discount at King's Academy. So if you put that code in when you become a member, you'll get $15 off your annual membership when you join. So we don't have an affiliation with Chia, although if you were to join a second one, I would highly recommend joining Chia. I emailed all the families in our program, I think last week or this week, recently. Chia is having a big conference at Mariners Church locally. It's free to Chia members, and I highly recommend you doing things like that. At King's Academy, we do a lot of the stuff for you in the sense that we choose the curriculum and we give you the homeschool guides and we give you the paperwork that you need for filing in many ways. But what you'll get at those conferences is actually just the joy of being around like-minded people, and you're going to walk out so pumped that you're homeschooling because you'll see all these people and you'll hear their speakers that are encouraging you, and you'll be glad. It'll be another way of just being excited about what you've decided to do with your family. So, any other questions? Yes. 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 So I would say actually about a little less than half of our families are part of public charter schools. The rest of them are all PSA families. There's pros and cons to both. I was a part of a public charter school for 5 or 6 years. This year I've decided to be a PSA instead. If you decide to be a part of a public charter school, what that means is the charter school holds your records, so you're not going to hold your own records. The charter school will do it. They'll do the standardized testing that's usually a part of it, at least for grades 3 and up. And then most of them will have assigned some kind of teacher. They call them different names, an ES or an EC, different names. They'll assign you one, and that person you'll need to meet with in some fashion once a month for all the learning periods, and you'll submit samples to them, and you'll submit paperwork to them. Some people feel a greater peace of mind. That was me early in homeschooling. I was like, I can't be in homeschooling. I don't, if I'm in a PSA, I just kind of freaked out by the whole thing. And so, but I have come to see now, having done the PSA, this is just my own perspective and just hold it lightly as a perspective. I have found it much easier to be in a PSA than doing the charter school, apart from the funding, which was one of the other reasons that I was there. But it's if you're a PSA, we give you almost all the information that you need to be filing. So it's up to you on if you want to do a report card or not, and they're not required in the state of California. And so in high school, we will probably do report cards, but in K through 8, we won't be. But you would need to possibly do that if you do a PSA. But mostly, there's not a whole lot that you have to do as a PSA. As a charter school, there'll be their own. Each charter school has varying requirements that they'll have you do, and they're all reasonable. It's not like it's a ton of time. It's totally manageable. It comes down to a matter of personal preference on what you do. There's pros and cons to both.
Just real quick, so can the funding from the public charter go towards your tuition, or that's completely separate?
They're completely separate. So we actually made that decision. I made that decision in last August, and felt, keep in mind that so last August we had, we were in the heat of COVID, right? And so they hadn't actually shut down schools again. I forget exactly when this was happening, but I know that people were still planning on going back to school when King's Academy was getting moving. And I had just felt personally convicted that the Lord wanted us to be set apart from anything related to the government in any fashion. So the only way to do that is by not taking charter funds. If you take charter funds, any restriction at all that they make, you're totally required to abide by it. So I knew that it could change on a dime with mass. I knew it could change on a dime with in-person instruction. I knew it could change on a dime with anything. It was all up for grabs. And so not knowing what could change when, I felt a personal conviction to separate King's Academy entirely from that, and felt that there would be families that would be happy to pay out of pocket for the stability and the confidence that they could get that came from that. So that is why we've been able to, that and Mike Hudgens giving us a total blessing on meeting without masks and social distancing for our kids. So that's why, is because we don't take any charter funds. So you're welcome to be a part of a charter school, but if you are, you'll just need to use those funds on Taekwondo or, dance lessons or whatever else. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes. Oh, thanks, Paul. Woohoo! Oh.
Great job. I just have one question having to do with ordering materials and things. About when will we get a list and when will we order?
So those lists should be in your email box. Sue sent them all out today at lunchtime. If you didn't get it for some reason, then let her know. This is an important thing you actually jogged my mind to say. All of your materials that are consumable, meaning it's books that you write in, need to be purchased new. Any of the books that are non-consumable, which is a lot of them, can all be purchased used. Our K through third grade classes are all staying the same for the most part. So anybody who has incoming, definitely, I know Lynn Miller's class and Sarah Staves, the second and third grade class, you can actually go to those families who are currently in the class and buy their used materials from them and use them again this year. And then next year, you can sell them to the next people that are coming through. If you have younger kids that are coming through, like so in my case, I have, a sixth grader, a fourth grader, and a first grader. I'm actually going to keep all those books because I know, and I've got an incoming kindergartner, I'm going to hold them for the next kid and the next kid and the next kid. So don't get rid of them. If you plan on keeping your kids in King's Academy, hold on to them. But once your youngest kid gets through the ranks, sell them to the next families that are coming in. Part of why this curriculum was such a labor of love is because we didn't want to redo this ever again in the near future. When we started, I'm so glad you're reminding me of something else. When we started this program, the question might be, somebody might be asking this question, Amy, why did you switch curriculum for grades 4, 5, and 6, and 7, and 8? That's a good question, and there's absolutely an answer for this. When we started this program, it was overnight. All of the people that were coming into this program needed books and materials. I needed books and materials. Many of them were back ordered. I don't know how many of you actually never got your Saxon math book until October, but there were a handful of you that didn't get your books because they were all back ordered from the influx of homeschoolers that were coming in, joining the ranks. I happened to already own 2 full sets of From Creation to the Cross, My Father's World for grades 3 through 8. And we had 2 classes that we needed curriculum for grades 3, 4, 5, and 6. We also needed a curriculum that you can teach for 2 grades at the same time. The one that I own is a multi-grade level set, so you don't have to have the 3rd graders learning one science and then the 4th graders learning another science, because remember, when our program started, we had combined classes. So you had 3rd and 4th graders were learning together and 5th and 6th graders learning together. So I already had a curriculum. I already had 2 sets of it. What are the chances of that? So I didn't have to worry about the back ordering. We already had it. And then it also was multi-grade level, so you could teach 2 grades with it at the same time. It just worked out. But moving forward, we, instead of being like, well, this is what I have, and we don't have to worry about back orders, and it can teach more than grade 1, you can pause and say, what is the Lord actually asking us to teach now? What should we be doing as a long-term plan? Where do we want to be going with this long-term? And so that's really what we were doing in recrafting it. And we found that what we were doing, kinder through 3rd, we liked. And we wanted to stay with it. It was working. And we found that the other grades, we've crafted something new that we think is going to be even better. So keep those books. Also, bye, Mike. The Knotgrass books. If you have a 6th grader, you'll notice on your curriculum list. So that bundle, the 5th graders, you guys are going to have. It's going to be a more expensive list, and the reason why is you're actually buying curriculum that's going to be for both years. So when you buy that 5th grade curriculum, you don't have to buy new history books for 6th grade. You don't have to buy a new writing book for 6th grade, but just know it's going to be a little costly that year. 4th grade has one other book that's kind of expensive too. But your 6th graders, if you want to just buy the books used from that you're going to be using in 6th grade, not the whole package, but just the ones that are going to be used for 6th grade, we've tried to help you by saying which books those are so that you can just buy. However, if you have younger kids coming through the ranks, I would consider just still buying the whole bundle and saving it for the next kid that comes through. Yes?
Is there talks, well, 2 questions. Is there talks of having any type of, I don't know, when school concludes, having a curriculum swap so parents, when they
Yeah.
go to school, and we all swap?
So we did talk about that briefly, but we felt like it was too much for us to put together at this season of the game with logistics of it, and there were several logistics we couldn't quite figure out how to do it smoothly. So this year we're just saying informally, we encourage you among yourselves to try to buy and sell used books together. You have all the curriculum, or you have all the list. I think, do you have the list by class? Is that in the directory? Yeah, so you can be able to, you could reach out to any of them. We also might put an easel out on the front where people could just say, hey, these are the books I'm open to selling, and then their phone number, and you guys can use the easel as a point of contact. But next year, we could do something more formalized. And if you have ideas for how you'd like to do it or you'd like to run it, then let me know.
Okay, my other question was playground.
Yes.
We talked about maybe some playground changes.
Yes.
What does that look like?
So part of it is the change in schedule that we've already done. So we're breaking it into 3 groups instead of 2. And then also, actually, there's a couple things. And then so we've hired a permanent playground monitor that's going to be out there with Igor as well. And then we'll continue to have people volunteer if they want to sign up for that. But we're also looking at Daniela, as I mentioned, she's Spanish, but she's also something that's called the wellness. We are going to have her be out there working actively with the kids several times during the day. Not every single recess and lunch, because then she would be out there all day too, but several of them. So for example, you know, the older kids have 2 breaks, so she'll be out there for one of those breaks. Probably most of the time, and doing, and the same for the younger kids, being out there for their lunches. Doing enrichment groups, different kinds of activities that are intentional and trying to help the kids come around a common purpose and an activity if they want to, not not requiring it, but giving them different kinds of opportunities instead of just free play. Those who want free play, absolutely. But if someone wanted to do a book club, if someone wanted to do, like, for example, the market day, she might be out there helping students come up with ideas for what they could sell, and then having them bring it with them to school, and they can be working on it during lunch together with her. They can be sharing ideas. They could do book clubs. They could do a lot of different things. So trying to breathe different ideas into the lunch hour that would create other opportunities for things they can be involved in. Yeah. Yes? So right now it's 15 kids per class. Next year is 16 kids per class. The only reason for that is because we bought 2 top desks, and so we've had an extra chair there. I felt, because I had said that it was going to be 15, I felt like I needed to stay with the 15, so we've had that empty chair there all year. But next year that empty chair will be filled, so that's why it's going up to 16. Yes? Good question. It is for all the grades, but it's not going to be like an actual, so all the grades are actually going to be using a Spanish curriculum too. The ones for the little kinder first and second is, I think it's called Songbook. I think it's by Classical Academic, what's that organization? Classical Academia Press. They have it's all songs-based Spanish, song and activity-based Spanish. So she's going to be doing that. The kids aren't going to be required to buy it because it's only going to be once a week for 30 minutes. But they'll definitely be getting exposure to Spanish on a weekly routine basis. But they don't need to buy a curriculum for it. We've just bought it and are using it ourselves with them. But they don't need to have their own copy. And then there's a separate curriculum that we're using for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And 6th graders will probably do the same curriculum as the 7th and 8th graders, but not as frequently. They're still going to just do it 1 day a week. And the 7th and 8th graders will do it 2 days a week for 45 minutes. So, yes? Is Ms. Swanson leaving is the question. We don't know. She hasn't determined. So we have been very blessed by Ms. Swanson. She's been, I've had some parents actually approach me saying how grateful they've been for her, that she raised the bar and had kids meet that bar. She is she needs full-time work. This job is not a perfect fit for somebody who needs a full-time job, and so she is looking for full-time work. Yeah. Yes. Oh, that's a good. The junior high, like the 7th and 8th graders, that's a good question that I don't have the answer to. I know that how we do the pickup actually may change for next year, just based on our size of the program. But we haven't. That's just been a moving conversation. It hasn't. There's nothing that's been determined on that yet. But if I don't remember to circle back to you on that, you can remember to circle back to me on it. It's because that's the 7th and 8th graders could have the option of just checking themselves out. Yeah. Yes. So should we go ahead and just order all this now? Yes, part of the reason in giving this to you, I have ordered a lot of curriculum in the last few weeks, and it's still back ordered. It is still back ordered. So in giving this to you now, part of the reason is you won't have any reason. There's two reasons in giving it to you. One is none of you will have an excuse to not get your books until October. But the other is because you can shop sales. There's a lot of sales that go on. Christian Book Distributors is constantly having sales. Rainbow Resource doesn't always have as good of sales, but it's still a great place to do it. So in giving this to you, you've got time to actually find these used too if you want. If you wait, don't wait to do this. If you wait until July and August, it's going to be picked over. Even the used resellers are going to be picked over. But in having it now, you have plenty of time to find things used or new for the price that you want. Yeah. Saxon math also, our teachers have asked the kids not to write in the book. Some kids have written in the book anyway, but if you have a consumable Saxon math book that has not been written in, you can keep that and use it for the next kid or sell it. We're also asking that you buy the Saxon Math Solutions Manual. Ms. Swanson has been so gracious, and she actually spends her time going through each number and making a graph with the answer key every week for the answers for those problems. I've told her so many times you don't have to do that. That's way over the top, right? I mean, that's amazing. But next year, everyone just needs to buy the answer key. So, and my life actually got so much better once I got the answer key because I could figure out how to do them. So I would recommend getting the answer key. The other thing for Rod and Staff, we do Rod and Staff for language arts from 2nd grade through 6th grade. Rod and Staff, by 3rd grade, you're diagramming sentences. If you don't know how to diagram a sentence, you need to get the teacher's manual for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade because you're not going to be able to help your child do it. I actually have had to have my 6th grader help me with the 4th grader because it's the death of me. The Rod and Staff 3rd grade is when it introduces the diagramming the sentences. I mean, how many of you remember how to diagram a sentence? Some of you probably do, but most. So you're going to want to, and you're saying, and we don't care either, right? We don't. Why are you teaching my kid how to diagram a sentence? The teacher's manual for Rod and Staff is more costly. You can try and get that one used too. But if you want your homeschool days to be more fruitful, where you feel like you're able to actually help them figure out some of their assignments, then we strongly recommend that you get the teacher's manual. We're not requiring it, but we're just strongly suggesting it for Rod and Staff. I will say with Rod and Staff, they have years ago when I was getting involved in homeschooling, I would hear about different curriculums, and they would say, if you want your kid just to be able to write, average writing, use this curriculum. They'll learn what they need to know to do what they need to do. If you want your child to write, like actually get into a good college, use the Rod and Staff. They'll know everything. And so it is tedious, and it's tedious sometimes, but I agree that my 6th grader has better grammar than I do, and Sue and I rival on who's got the better grammar because she's a grammar nut too, but that book teaches really good grammar. So your child will have a good understanding of grammar, the English language. Yes? Yeah. So cursive is going to be introduced in 2nd grade here. Not before. Yeah, it'll be introduced in 2nd grade. Yep. Anyone else? Other questions? Yes. The 2 45 minutes is 7th and 8th grade. 6th grade will just have the 30 minutes like the other grade levels. So the songs is for kinder 1st and 2nd. The 3rd through 6th is not the songs. That's a different curriculum that they'll be using. I don't recall at the moment what it is. Yeah. I know, immersion. So they're going to be able to teach the class. Her kids are coming from an immersion program. So they'll probably know everything. And yeah. Yes?
The civics class is all new. It's not something that our 7th graders are looking at each issue.
Nope.
So if I got that for Twilight to do over the summer, is that something that you'd be open out to home?
Absolutely. She asked about this because you missed it this year, right? Yeah, that's why. So she has a 7th grader, and she is interested in the 7th grade civics class. It'll be next year. So yes, you could absolutely get it and work it through. It's very, it's written towards the homeschooler. It's very easy to do independently if they wanted to. Each, there's 150 lessons, and you would just read through each lesson. Your 7th and 8th graders are gonna have to work. They're pretty hard because there's 150 lessons, and we don't have 150 school days. And then you add the holidays in and the extra stuff. So we're gonna try to do our best to cover that whole book. The whole civics one in 7th grade and the whole U.S. history one in 8th grade. So there might be times where your child has reading homework on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday in that book just to try to keep it moving. But it's gonna be awesome. Yeah, they're gonna learn a lot in those books. Yeah. Other questions? We have probably 1 or 2 more minutes before we'll wind down. It's almost 3:30 to go get the kids. Yes.
So you mentioned the cursive, so she's coming in at 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that she would need to do to catch up to be where the other kids are? Because you said
That's been our challenge all year. Yeah, and that's been our challenge. That's why we didn't use the penmanship books, is not all the kids know cursive. So half of them do, and half of them have never done it before. So I think at this point, if you have like a 3rd, 4th, and 5th grader who doesn't know cursive, if you want them to know it, you'll need to teach it to them yourself. They're going to be having it in the Zahner Bloser book. Will have it. How much of it is actually teaching it to the 4th and 5th grade level, I don't know. I haven't gone through it closely enough. I imagine it's reviewing it, but I don't know. It'll get taught in 2nd. Yeah. Any other questions? We made it perfectly on time. It's 3:25. All right, we're done.